Personal finance expert and MeVest founder Lesley-Anne joining us on Canada Now. And Lesley-Anne, a recent article of yours in the Star discusses how to break the cycle of impulse buying.
There is a reason that overspenders keep spending, and even the savers, they keep saving, and it's because it's rewarding. The focus that I had the past week, and actually it's been a focus, if I'm being really honest, for a few years now, the psychology of why we are doing the things that we're doing with our finances. So when I look at something like overspending, we can actually dive into the mechanics of what's happening in your mind, in your body, to break the cycle. Because let's face it, overspending is that thing that often leads to debt and stress. It can even break up a marriage. It is nasty. So the more we understand about it, the more likely we are to actually break some of those cycles.
Yeah, you're right. And I've talked about this with you in the past, that sometimes, especially over the course of the pandemic, because we're feeling sorry for ourselves, we want to treat ourselves well because we deserve it. Look what we've been through. And part of that is with online shopping.
Yeah.
And, for me, like, my crutch is like baseball caps. I love getting baseball caps and baseball t-shirts. I don't go overboard, but every once in a while I'll spoil myself with a couple of things here or there. But there are times where I go, ooh, that looks good. I want to get that. I fill up my shopping cart with like 4 or 5 things. And I go, wow, that's like $200 of stuff that I don't need at all. It just makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I do is I leave it in the cart. I go about my day. Maybe a couple of hours later, I'll come back and I'll look at it and I'll go, I got used to the idea of possibly having those things. And I might get one, I might get two, I might not get any. I might go, there's not, I'll wait for a deal or something. But that dopamine, that high wears off. And I find with me, it doesn't take very long.
Right. Well, and so you're actually scratching at something very interesting. There's a physical reaction that happens when we even begin to think about shopping or think about having that baseball cap, or in my case, like I love fashion and I love art, right? So I also love really nice food. So I get a real kick when I go into a nice grocery store. So think for a moment, just even if you drill into that experience that you have when you're filling your cart, you, like many other people, feel excitement surging through your body, and you might even have like a quickening pulse, or I always joke with my students, but this is for real, you might like have wet underarms because you're so excited about it. For some people, like the excitement is real. So that is the effect of a naturally produced chemical in our bodies called dopamine. And you referred to that a few minutes ago. That surges through our bodies. It makes us excited and happy. The thing with dopamine that's created by some, let's say unhealthy habits, is that it wears off fairly quickly, sometimes 30 minutes, sometimes 3 days later, but it ultimately wears off. And when we take a good look at a healthy habit that creates that same dopamine, the healthy habit that releases the dopamine actually causes you to feel a more sustained happiness. So the interesting thing here is when you're an impulse buyer and you get that high from filling your cart, it goes away, which is why you're back at it like a few days later. And if you have this layered with other issues going on in your life, it can be supercharged. So within a few days, you can be in debt and not even have like a memory about how you got there.
Yeah. And, like I was talking about me, like, feeling sorry for myself. Oh, it's the pandemic. Woe is me. That's right. We all did it, right? To varying degrees. But there are some people, I have no reason to feel sorry for myself whatsoever. But there are some people that, and you pointed it out in the article that they would have to work a little bit harder than the rest because they might be feeling like lonely or something, like they've got
100%.
nothing, they don't have much going for them. So this quick little thing feeds them, but it
Yes.
goes away.
And I'm so glad you pointed that out. So when other things are going on, like loneliness, and look at the pandemic, we all felt that even when we were in our own homes with, in my case, like kids bouncing off the walls,
Yeah.
there were moments where I was surrounded by people, but still felt alone. And so when like boredom, loneliness are very bad for your wallet, and which is why we try to suggest if you are aware of what's going on. So I'm feeling this loneliness, I am feeling the thoughts that I want to go and buy something. Just being aware is kind of like half the battle. And that awareness for some people is enough to have them stop and pause before they actually go to the checkout and you know empty their
Yeah.
wallet.
Yeah, you're right. And you talk about replacing a bad habit with a healthy one. And talking about, hey, instead of spending $20 on something you're going to buy online or whatever, grab $20 and move it from your checking account to your savings account. Make yourself feel good in that way. But you also talked about if you feel like you want to spring for lunch, you want to have like a fun lunch, you want to buy out, buy your lunch out or something, instead go into your kitchen and make like just an amazing lunch. Like make yourself
Yes,
using what you have, using the groceries that you did buy, not wasting anything, and just making like a super lunch or something.
that's right. And I call those like epic lunches or epic
Yeah, epic.
brunches.
Yeah, that's what you're
and
saying. Yeah.
and they're so amazing. Or
Yeah.
even that epic smoothie. So doesn't it feel good when you know that you used up things in your refrigerator but also saved 10 or $15? Of course it feels good. Doesn't it feel so good when you move money into your savings account? Of course that feels
Yeah.
really, really good. So if we keep going with this train of thought, imagine you're the person who's about to buy some new fitness gear online. It's in your cart, and you just pause and you go put on your running shoes that you currently have and you go
Yeah.
for a run. Doesn't that feel good? And you realize, like, oh gosh, these shoes are just fine. The gear that I just wore is just fine. Let me put that $125 back into my account. Or even let's go further. You were about to spend 30 minutes scrolling through social media and then going into your favorite retailer's online store, and you decide to just back away from that 30-minute scroll session, and you take a couple of those minutes and you update your net worth or your budget, and it all feels good.
Yeah.
Interestingly, that feeling of goodness that you have when you're replacing, like almost like a near miss of overspending, I'm going to call it a near miss. When you replace that with something healthy, that dopamine is released into your body and it stays because it is a healthy habit. So when we look at like human psychology and money psychology, rewards are rewards are rewards. If they're good, they happen to give you a longer uplifting feeling. If they're bad, they can be, where the term called like, I feel like I'm in a spiral of debt. It's
Yeah.
legit because you are in
Yeah.
a spiral of the same thing going on over and over and over again.
Yeah, and as you talked about in the article as well, Leslie, and it might be because of the environment you've put yourself in. So look at changing your environment too.
I love this. Like, take yourself off of the shopping emails. Do not go into the store. Maybe even for some people, I know like in our household, we try really hard to have a rule like no scrolling right before bed, because How
Mhm.
many times have you been scrolling and you're like, oh, that looks good? Like we just completed the garden, our back garden, and like I almost bought a little fireplace thing. And that was obviously late at night when I was feeling tempted and tired. The point is like, sometimes it is just about putting your phone down, not going to places, or even changing up your social environment where you may have felt like there was social pressure to buy too.
Yeah, social media will apply that pressure as well because you see people, everybody's lives on like Instagram is great, isn't it? You know,
Oh,
they're
yeah,
they're off enjoying some vacation or doing something, or they're the greatest parents in the world. Look at all the things that they're doing. Meanwhile, you're looking at it and going, I'm not doing anything with my kid right now. You know,
yes.
you just feel guilty. And the same can be applied to what they have. They might be enjoying something they just bought and they're showing it off. And meanwhile, you're like, well, I deserve that too. Why are they getting that?
Totally.
I should be getting something too.
Totally. So you're even getting into another area. We know social media has actually a very negative effect on your sense of self-worth. And also it has the effect of you wanting to overspend. So there's that initial dopamine surge when you are scrolling, and guess what? That wears off and it
Yeah.
doesn't feel very good afterward. My best advice here is like, take a pause. If you are in that spiral and you are not feeling like you're able to get out, take a moment. Recognize the physical signs that you might be experiencing that quick hit of dopamine or that loneliness or that keeping up with the Joneses. The awareness is half the battle. Then you're going to start to replace, those unhealthy habits with healthy ones, and you're going to change up the environment so that it is creating conditions of health. This is all about being financially stronger, but also like more mentally strong at the same time. And these things, they can go hand in hand.
Sure can. As you say at the end of your article, wanting to change impulse buying habits is half the battle. The other half is work. Check out mevest.ca. Personal finance expert, Mevest founder, Hank and Dot's mom, Lesley-Anne Scorgi. Lesley-Anne, a pleasure as always, my friend. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks, Jeff.